Pokemon, the richest franchise in the world. That's right, the richest. Marvel, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, Hello Kitty, get out of here with that peasant stuff. The Pokemon franchise is worth more than $90 billion. So obviously, the video games should be top notch, right? Just like the new God of War or any other modern games, right? Oh yeah, that's right. But Pokemon has a problem. Why make any improvements or change any of the things when the money keeps raking in? Now in this video, I'm going to take a look back at all the mainline Pokemon games over the years, so there will be some spoilers. The only ones I won't be looking at are Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because I don't have them yet. We all know it started with Pokemon Red and Blue, well, at least in North America. And I had Pokemon Red as a kid, and it was the first game I've ever played, entirely, and I had it on the original Game Boy. I played Pokemon Red every day, all day, back around 2001, and the first games really did capture that adventure feeling of setting out on a grand adventure by yourself. You know, when you turn 10 years old and your mom sets you free to go out and explore the open world to catch wild Pokemon, you know, the usual. The original starters, the Kanto region, the music, Team Rocket, for some, the originals are the best. Heck, it's hard to disagree. I mean, even the old rival, Gary, or Red in the game, he was kind of an asshole and would always jump out at an unexpected time and challenge you for a battle. You could be coming out of a cave or your Pokemon are exhausted from this long trail that you just passed by, and bam, he just comes out of nowhere and catches you off guard. I'm almost to Giovanni. Hopefully nobody comes out and tries to battle me or anything. Oh, damn it, Gary. Now Hop from Sword and Shield, he had to ask you permission to battle you. Now Team Rocket, their organization was trying to take over the world and use Pokemon as weapons. Giovanni, their leader, was the last gym leader. I mean, yeah, he had slick back hair, a fancy suit. I mean, he was basically the mafia of Pokemon. And they took over buildings in different cities throughout the original games. Compare Team Rocket to Sword and Shield's organization that you fight against, Team Yell. Well, they literally yell. They're more like a large gathering of pranksters. Don't even get me started on the Elite Four. In the originals, you beat Lance, you think you're the champion, and bam, who is it? Gary, of course. And he has a starter, which happens to be the weakness of your Pokemon, and it's a pretty legendary battle. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I guess I had these on this whole time, so maybe I'm a bit nostalgic for the older titles. But somewhere along the way, things got lost, and maybe we all grew up, and that's the only reason, but it feels like a lot more than that. Silver and Gold released, and what a way to make sequels. 16 badges, and you can basically play Red and Blue all over again and go back to the Kanto region. The difficulty is even higher in Silver and Gold, and I think they're the last ones where I truly think the game gave you a challenge. When you find Red on Mount Silver, all his Pokemon are in their 70s, and his Pikachu will kick your ass. And then the rival for the second games in Silver and Gold was this guy. I mean, you meet him outside the professor's laboratory, and he's kind of a weirdo, and he just shoves you out of the way. And I took that personally. And in the third game, Ruby and Sapphire, well, Pokemon took it to a whole new level. Now, some people had already jumped off the Pokemon train by the third generation, but for me, Gen 3 was amazing. The fourth generation, Diamond and Pearl, was the first one on the DS, followed by Black and White, the only ones that happened to have a sequel, and their story was different than the others. Then X and Y came, the first quote-unquote modern Pokemon games, releasing on the 3DS. And then Sun and Moon, which I actually had skipped and came back to after Sword and Shield. And finally, like I just mentioned, Sword and Shield, the first mainline Pokemon games on a modern console. Or so we thought. Sword and Shield single-handedly put me off Pokemon. Well, almost. I still bought Arceus, but I haven't gotten Scarlet or Violet. But let's track back a bit. Back to the problems of Pokemon throughout the years. And the first one, I think, is the difficulties. After the second gen with Red, every Pokemon entry got easier and easier, and in Sword and Shield, I pretty much beat everyone with ease. Now obviously the game is catered towards kids, so it shouldn't be too hard, and I do tend to grind my Pokemon and level them up higher than they need to be. But maybe Pokemon should add a difficulty, some for the players who want a higher difficulty challenge or level, or at least have trainers like Red from Silver and Gold that have really high level Pokemon. I never got the DLC to Sword and Shield, so that might have answered my question in having higher level trainers and Pokemons in the DLC. The second problem I think Pokemon has is there's not a lot of post-content after you beat the game, and in some entries, it's basically non-existent. Now I know you can technically do a lot. You can always fill up your Pokedex, max your Pokemon levels, go shiny hunting, get every item in the game, explore every nook and cranny in the entire map, and the list goes on and on. But one perfect example was Silver and Gold, where you can go back to the Kanto region and battle all the gyms and even go to the Elite Four. Now I don't know if that counts as post-game, but one example I do remember was Emerald. And Emerald had the battle tower just like every other game, but it had a battle frontier, and it was basically an island with different quote-unquote battle towers that all had different unique features and different strategies, and I think I've spent more time on this than the entire game as a kid. There was even a wild area where you can catch Smeargles, and every building, like I said, had different strategies. There was one that was shaped like a snake, and there was poison all over, and you had to go through different levels. And there was one where you're climbing up a pyramid of different floors, and sometimes you'd find a Nurse Joy, and you'd think she's going to heal you, but it would just be another trainer. And they still had their battle tower, you know, where you rent your Pokemon, and you can do 50 or level 100 battles, and there was so many different things you can do and earn battle points, and it had amazing prizes, and it was truly the best post-game of any of the games. And when Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby came out and they weren't included, I was pretty sad about that. And then I also found out they didn't have the casinos Ruby and Sapphire, so I pretty much stopped playing the remakes after that, because I don't know why that was my favorite part. But the main problem with Pokemon is what every big franchise has been doing. Rinse and repeat. Take Sony's first-person titles, or Nintendo's first-person titles like Mario and Legend of Zelda. They progressed to big open-world games, just like Pokemon. Big difference is that Mario's Odyssey and Breath of the Wild are comparable to titles like God of War or Last of Us. Sure, not when it comes to graphics or the storyline of those games, but they have something they all share. Quality. And by quality, I mean just that. Well fleshed out, quality games. Now, Pokemon games have always been about a giant adventure, and the story is the one you make yourself. But it's 2022, and I don't know if Game Freak has the capacity to make such a game like Odyssey or Breath of the Wild. Maybe they do, and someone is crunching down the development, but Nintendo could help out the Pokemon Company or Game Freak with resources. I mean, the biggest franchise ever, and there isn't even voice acting? Now, this is supposed to be a concert, and there's a crowd, and the song is just subtitles. I know a game doesn't need voice acting to be good. Like I just mentioned Mario and Zelda. With Link and Mario, they don't talk. And in Mario Odyssey, there's a concert as well in New Donk City. But the difference is that there's actual lyrics. Link at least makes noises, and at least Breath of the Wild can get away with it, because it's such a quality game as I just mentioned earlier. Sure, Pokemon has a lot of hurdles. I mean, there's about 1,000 Pokemon with all unique different models, and there's a lot of elements in the game, but I at least think they can give us more than we get. Maybe I'm just exaggerating, but the Pokemon Company and Game Freak seem like they lost that spark they once had. I remember stories and interviews of the first and second generation, and hearing how Satoru Iwata helped out in the production of game development, and in Gen 3, Game Freak wanted to convey a message about Japan's climate and ecosystem with Ruby and Sapphire. Nowadays, it's all about the money. Now obviously all companies want money, but video games started out as a hobby and passion projects, especially Pokemon. They struck gold with Pokemon Red and Blue, and I don't think even they could imagine that one day it would become the biggest franchise in the world. Maybe I've been too harsh, maybe Scarlet and Violet have addressed a lot of the concerns I've just spoke about, but I haven't really seen any of the gameplay or reviews, just the initial trailers. I did see the game sold 10 million copies in 3 days. Those are insane numbers. So perhaps maybe it's time to take on my wallet. Let me check the review scores really quick. Nope, never mind.